This is the Real Change Wilmington Podcast, episode 45, Cowan Lake State Park, with our guest today, Caden Sauerbrey.
That's the entire point of what I do, of connecting people with these resources and saying, hey, these are all the cool things you can see. And people are like, wow, those are really cool. And they get an interest in it and they care about it. And that helps us conserve it and keep it around for posterity.
What is going on, everyone? This is your host of the Real Change Wilmington Podcast, Dustin Pierce, joined with my co-host, Tiara Harris. Real Change is a positive, constructive, and lighthearted source of local news, events, and resources. And on our podcast, we interview leaders of local organizations to help squash rumors and encourage a greater sense of pride in our community. Before we get started today, Tiara, how are you doing? What's new in your world?
It's new in my world. We just finished our first week of summer program at Harvest of Gold, so that's a relief. It went really well. It was a good decision for me to split age groups. So we have Monday, Wednesday, Friday. On Monday, it's K through 2nd. Wednesday is 3rd through 5th. And then Friday, everyone comes together to do a group activity. So I think that went really well. It was a first, but it was successful, I think.
What have been some of your favorite activities so far? You did some robot stuff?
Yes, at my station, we built robots because my station is science and engineering. For our other stations led by our other volunteers, they get to plan their lesson plans. So the kids had a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Hands-on learning.
Hands-on learning, hands-on living.
Yeah, just like
Free
Wilmington
plug
College.
for Wilmington College. Yeah.
Nice.
So what have you been up to? I heard that you've been biking without a helmet.
Yeah, hitting the trails. Took my bike to Cedar Creek the other weekend, and I forgot my helmet, and I had my basket on my bike still, but I still was determined to try the trails with my new bike. But I bought a wheelies, pedal assist, and it was a good time going through the trails. Definitely easier getting up the hills. But yeah, I would definitely do it again.
Do you remember what trail you took?
I think it was called a campground trail. It was pretty flat.
Okay.
But I needed to just get my bearings back, how to do trails again. So hopefully I'll do more this summer. What was your favorite part of talking with Caden and learning about the Cowan Lake State Park?
I think my favorite part is going to end up being your favorite part as well, but visiting the nature center and just seeing all of the resources that we have. And it's local. I had absolutely no idea about it beforehand. So I'm hoping that other people that are listening to this podcast go out and visit and see it visually for themselves and get to speak to Caden because he's really intelligent. And if you have any questions, he'll answer them.
Yeah, I liked going to the nature center as well. They have a ton of stuff there. So they have a bunch of animals you can see. They have like a snake and a frog and salamanders and stuff. They have activities you can do. They have a bunch of neat displays. And I think it all definitely comes to life when you talk to Caden and he educates you on the history of fossils in Cowan Lake and the lotus. That was interesting too. So Lotus Festival is coming up in August, I believe. Should be a good time. So yeah, it was just really cool. And then to learn about the nonprofit group, I think that's the Friends of Cowan Lake. It's just cool to see there's people in our community who are so active in helping to preserve Cowan Lake and also create activities for our community to engage with our awesome state park. So
I heard they're doing a few new things. They might be installing a mini golf course as well.
Yeah. Let's just bring in Caden and have him talk. Excited to chat. So we have to just start by learning about you. What's your story?
As you know, I am the naturalist here at Cowan Lake State Park. I grew up in Zanesville, Ohio, so about roughly 2.5 hours from here, about an hour east of Columbus. I went to school at Ohio Northern University, so I graduated in May of 23, so I've been graduated for a whole year now. They had this job at Cowan posted, and I took it last August, and here I am. I haven't really left, so I've been here a year-ish.
And you said that you didn't start college going to be a naturalist. What was your original career path?
So actually, my original career path was I was going to be a pharmacist. So people that go to Northern are usually either engineers or pharmacists. But we also have a great environmental and field biology program. So, I got 3.5 years into pharmacy school, decided, hey, this is really not what I want to do. So I switched some things up, graduated with my degree in biology, and was a little aimless until I figured out that I wanted to be a naturalist. And honestly, that was just, I saw a job posting with seasonal naturalist somewhere, and I said, that's what I want to be when I grow up. So I applied, and here I am.
So how far into your biology degree were you until you landed on naturalist?
About a semester.
Okay, not too
So I was in for one semester, and I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. but we use this, it's a website called Handshake. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, on campus. And that's where I saw the job posting for a seasonal naturalist. So I had the background education. I said, that sounds fun. It follows my interests. And here I am.
What position did you have before this one? You had an internship somewhere else, right?
So I was talking about my seasonal naturalist position
Yes,
was at a different state park.
Okay.
So that's what I did before I moved here. This one's a permanent position. So I work all year as opposed to just the summers now. The state park I was at before is called Blue Rock State Park. It's southern Muskingum County, Ohio, just south of Zanesville, where I was from. I lived at home, did that job until I moved here.
We talked before, you mentioned about your upbringing and your grandparents' influence on your life. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So again, I told you I grew up on a farm near Zanesville. That farm has been in my family since 1954-ish. So my grandpa originally moved, him and his family moved to that farm then. Well, we never really left. So the things around there are what has kind of inspired me to be here. You know, I would sit there and bird watch with my grandparents sometimes. We would explore out and tell us about things. We would do crafts with different flowers. So my grandma was really big on dyeing Queen Anne's lace, the wild carrots. You would put them in colored water and they would turn cool colors. You know, just connecting yourself with nature and doing all these different cool things with that. So that has really kind of inspired me to move forward in this career that I'm at. You know, I'd go mushroom hunting with my grandpa. I'm terrible at it, but he was really good. So he would just tell me where to look and I would go find the mushrooms. He also really liked feeding the birds. So our farm probably had the best goldfinch population anywhere within like the state of Ohio. It's probably unofficial, but I'm going to say it because he really liked the goldfinches and that's what we would do. So we would look at birds and flowers and mushrooms and all that other stuff. So again, just spending time in the woods with my grandparents was kind of how I got interested in what I'm doing now.
This is going to sound ignorant, but I've seen a farm that have like these really tall, like white poles with little birdhouses at top.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what those are? Is that what you're talking about? Or?
So what kind of bird houses are you looking at? What's the shape of the bird?
It was like circular at the top.
Kind of like, looks kind of like a gourd almost.
Yeah.
So those are actually for purple martins.
Okay.
The purple martins really like to move in there. So people build those all the time. And we didn't have those when I was growing up. We had one, we just never hung it up.
Okay.
So my grandpa dabbled in carpentry because his dad was a carpenter and his dad's dad was a carpenter and his dad's dad's dad was a carpenter. So he built stuff out of wood all the time. So there are tons of bluebird boxes just everywhere, all over the farm when I was growing up.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So besides being a naturalist and being in nature, what are your other hobbies?
I like to run a lot. So I ran cross country in college, actually, cross country and track. And, you know, I'm trying to continue that. As a grown-up adult and, you know, as a typical 24-year-old male, I also play a lot of video games because, you know, it seems as if everybody does. So that's what I do. I move forward and I play video games.
What's your favorite video game?
Breath of the Wild.
Ooh, okay. That makes sense. That actually checks out a lot.
That's a Zelda game, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
You play games, Dustin?
No, I used to live with some guys and one of them got that game. I was watching play it. So, yeah.
It's satisfying to just even watch someone play it. It's relaxing.
Yeah, that's what I did. I mean, I've sunk probably 300 hours in that game. It's literally what I do when I'm not outside.
It's kind of like being outside, though, but it's
exactly
in your bedroom, I guess.
Being outside, but I get to hang out with my cats, so it's great.
Nice. What's a defining moment of your life that helped shape your personality or values?
There's lots of different things that I consider to define my life. If we're talking about positives and negatives, both. I've had both. A lot of life experience for a 24-year-old and what I've experienced. At this point in time, it's a little personal and a little difficult to talk about at some points in time, but I have struggled with my mental health at various times in my life, especially when I was going through college. And that was a huge paradigm shift for me when the struggles started to get a little overwhelming. And there's been a noticeable change in my life, my personality since then. I tend to look more for things that I enjoy and some things that really, you know, have helped me out. Basically, after I've had some of those struggles, I really relate to myself of we need to pursue our interests. We need to do something we're passionate about. We need to look at things that, you know, what do I want to do? What makes me happy? What do I connect with? And how can I do that in my personal life? And that's kind of where we're at. So again, I had those struggles at the same time where I was struggling with what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be. And then that's really helped me put some things in perspective. I've had to take the opportunity to put some things in perspective and just do something that's fun and enjoyable and something that is me. as opposed to being something that I'm not.
You're doing that at a really young age, though.
Yeah. So let's transition into the organization. You talked last time about just the structure of this is a state park.
So I work for a state park. We are, again, administered by the state government. So my boss's boss's boss is the governor of Ohio. So we are, the department of the governor's office is basically kind of how that works. So, a lot of people think the federal government and the state government kind of work the same way, where a national park, eventually your boss's boss's boss is the Secretary of the Interior, whose boss is the president, right? Same thing here. So we have the Division of Parks and Watercraft, which oversees all the parks, which is under the Department of Natural Resources, which does just about anything that has to do with land in the state of Ohio. And that person who's in charge of the Department of Natural Resources is appointed by the governor.
What's the gap from that position to in here? How many bosses do you have?
How many bosses do I have? Several. So
locally, you work for the local manager of Cowan Lake?
So my direct supervisor is my park manager at Cowan Lake, and his supervisor is the district manager, who also happens to be here at Cowan Lake. And then her supervisor is actually the chief of the Division of Parks and Watercraft, whose boss is the director. Her name's Mary Mertz. She's the director of the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, whose boss is the governor of Ohio. So between me and the governor, I guess there's 4 degrees of separation, but in actuality, it's a lot more than that.
And what does the staff look like at Cowan? What's it take to run Cowan?
So it all depends on the time of year. Right now in the summer, we're at full staff, which is about 24 people, 24 to 30 people. In the winter, we go bare bones, where it's basically just our permanent staff, and our permanent staff is 10 people with our permanent staff. So basically, if we're running bare bones, it's about 10 people it takes to run a park. And this one's roughly average sized. Some take more, some take less, depending. The park that I had just come from before I got this job at Cowan, they were 2 permanent staff members, and that was the whole park. But we have a few more amenities, and we have a little bit more land, so it takes a few more people. We basically have departments in the park. Mm-hmm. Here we have my department as the naturalist, so I'm in an entire department. And then we have our maintenance, our custodial, and our camp store. So our camp store does the retail aspect. They have the campground reservations. They run our campground commissary, which is right up there. So it's the retail, direct public, running the campground, generating revenue, all that stuff. We have our custodial. They clean things, our cabins, our bathrooms, sometimes the park itself, just depends. And then our maintenance obviously does maintenance. They mow the grass, they fix the buildings, way oversimplified, but that's basically it. We have a park manager and a brand new assistant park manager. I think her first day as assistant park manager is today. And we have an administrative professional who works in the office and does exactly what her title says.
Is your department hard to manage?
It's just me, so, well...
That's what I'm asking. Are you hard to manage?
Depends on who you ask. You ask my manager, okay. I don't know what the answer will be, but I do a lot of things, so I'm constantly busy doing something. There's just a lot of things that I do. So it's nice that I'm busy constantly, but it's also just a lot to worry about.
So can you maybe talk about just all that Cowan Lake has to offer as an overview, and then we'll kind of get down into what you specifically do as a naturalist? Yeah,
of course. So Cowan Lake is, again, a state park in Ohio. What's really cool about our state parks here in this state is that they're all completely free to go to. So there's a lot of other states that they actually charge you an admission fee to get into the state parks. And that's actually more of the rule than the exception of having to pay to get into state parks. Ours are completely free, which is really cool.
Do you know why that is? Who decided that?
The governor actually decided that. So we've been free for a very long time, and this current administration is very adamant that we will stay free for as long as we possibly can. Is that to be changed in the future? It's going to be extremely unpopular if that changes. I don't see that happening anytime soon. Mm-hmm. So everything's completely free. That being said, we do charge for camping. Mm-hmm. So you can bring your camper here, your tent, car camp. I've car camped in state parks before. It's great. We have about 250 campsites. They run roughly $30 a night. I don't know the numbers straight off the top of my head, but roughly $30 a night. Different amenities or different prices. So we have just standard electric sites. We've got full hookup. That's water, sewer, electric. We have non-electric sites. Just depends on what you want. And again, you can put tents on any site. I've seen campers. I've seen people with buses, which is awesome. Again, I've car camped. It doesn't matter, just as long as you can come. We also have 23 cabins here at Cowan Lake. They run roughly $130 a night, roughly, but they're really nice. So it's like a fully furnished 2-bedroom apartment. So they sleep like 6 to 8 people, depending. I think it's 6, but it's like 2 bedrooms. There's one that has like 2 bunks. Another one that's got like a full queen size mattress. There's a full kitchen, a living room with a TV, screen porch. Some of them have fireplaces, some of them don't. Just depends. There's 23 of those, and they're really nice. And basically, for what you're paying for, you will not find a better deal. Again, it's a full 2-bedroom apartment for $130 a night. That's like almost as much as a hotel room. It's crazy, and you get a lot more. And you're in a state park, so I mean, come on, that's awesome.
You have more space. You don't have neighbors yelling.
Yeah, exactly.
Through the drywall.
Oh yeah, exactly. And most of them, you can look at the lake and hear the birds. And sometimes there's a fox that runs across your porch. Cabins 20 through 23 probably have the best view of the lake. If you have to get one, I'd do 23. It's probably the best one. So pro tip from the naturalist.
I was going to ask. Yeah, good to know.
Pro tip from the naturalist, 23's probably got the best view. Some of them are refurbished, some of them aren't, but we are finishing our refurbishment project here in September. So we're starting that, and they're going to be closed from September to April just to finish remodeling everything. So new floors, new paint, new appliances. I think we're going to get new furniture. It's going to look really cool when it's done. Besides camping, there's tons of stuff to do at the lake. You can kayak, you can fish, you can boat. We do have a 10 horsepower limit in this lake. It varies from lake to lake just based on the size. Sailing's huge in this lake. We have a sailing club. They do a lot of stuff. It's really cool. There's a marina. It's owned by a concessionaire. So they rent boats, they rent canoes, do a whole bunch of stuff there. He's also the best guy in the entire world to ask about Cowan Lake fishing. So they have a bait shop. It's really cool.
Wait, where's the place you can rent boats at?
This is the marina. It is on the other side of the lake. So just off of 730.
Okay. Is it by the beach?
Kind of, but you can get there. Basically, you head out 730, like you're crossing the dam, then you cross the bridge over the dam, and it's like your first left.
Okay.
You ever been to Capricorn End?
Yeah, so it's near there.
Yeah, so it's right past Capricorn End. So it's like if you're going that way, it's Capricorn End to your right, and then the bridge over the spillway, and then the marina is off to the left. The sailing club and the marina are both out there, but the sailing club's private, so don't go there.
Do you know how much it costs to rent boats?
Not off the top of my head. I know they rent canoes for about $30 an hour.
Nice.
So I don't know how much it is to rent a boat, a pontoon there. I haven't asked, so I need to ask.
That's a pretty cool resource. I didn't know anything about that.
It's a cool place. And then again, on that same side, there's a big public beach. It's got a bathhouse. Right next to our beach, there's a couple of reservable shelter houses. Just if you want to go for the day, we have a dance pavilion, which is really neat. You can reserve that, and there's people that do. There's a club, I think, that helped put it in, and they do like monthly dances, although I haven't seen them advertised, but it's pretty awesome. Do you square dance, Dustin?
No, they did a square dancing thing at 10 Cap last weekend, I think.
Yeah, you ever square danced, yeah?
I have not.
Yeah, so I hardcore into that when I was in high school or like college. So my friends and I at 4-H would go square dancing all the time. I love it. It's really fun. But anyways, they do that down at the dance pavilion sometimes.
Is that different than two-step?
I'm not 100% sure what two-step's supposed to mean. Okay, so yes, very different.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
So we would like line dance and square dance and all that stuff.
Yeah, nice.
We also have a disc golf course. I believe it's 18 holes. That was put in by our friends group. They're a really cool volunteer organization. They do a lot of cool stuff. That is a certified professional course. So we have a golf pro. It's really cool. I think something last year, there was something like 5,000 people who used the golf course. Something like 10,000 rounds of golf played on that thing. It's good. It's very well used. It's very popular. I don't know if you've ever disc golfed. I did on campus when I was in college. It's really cool.
Did you do disc golf when I was in college?
No.
They have a course there or something.
They do. I was too busy working and doing boring stuff.
Yeah. That's what me and my friends would do sometimes on Sunday mornings. So we would run Saturday, and then you would wake up Sunday morning, go play disc golf, and then you go study for the rest of the day. So that's what we did.
Also like disc football or something that was played. What's it called? It's like there's two teams. You throw a disc and you try to get it down the field. Once you catch it, you have to like stay.
Talking like ultimate frisbee.
That's what it's called?
Yeah, like ultimate frisbee. Some people call it frisbee football.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
It's a great time. Played that in college sometimes too, except I hung out mostly with my teammates, and some of us were really good, and most of us were really terrible. So it's about how it works.
Yeah, whenever I throw a frisbee, it's always like a 50-50. What's going to happen next? Like, is it going to hit the ground, like fly away, or is it going to go straight? Like, so.
Exactly. Mine always hook right, so.
At least you know that, like, how to like adjust.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I just.
Yeah, so I just like, if I'm trying to hit you over here, I'm going to throw it like right over there.
Yeah, and then it'll come back.
Somebody will catch it. I don't know if it's the right person, but somebody will. Also, yeah.
Right on. So there's also some trails too, right?
There's 8 trails, roughly 10-ish miles total. I don't know the numbers straight off the top of my head, but I have the data somewhere.
Are these purely walking trails or are they biking trails also?
Here at Cowan, we only have hiking trails for right now. I think we used to have a mountain bike trail, but we don't anymore. This is a project we're working on. It's been discussed. Lots of different parks have lots of different trails. So again, we just have hiking trails. You go to places like Caesars Creek or East Fork, they have horse trails and mountain biking trails and all that kind of stuff. But here it's mostly hiking trails.
Are they leveled? Could someone see the difficulty for the trail?
Yeah, that is posted. Most of our trails
like
are
a level 1, level 2, like
Yeah.
difficulty kind of.
Oh yeah, usually we rate them as easy, moderate, or difficult. And there's nothing in this park that's considered insanely difficult.
Parkour.
Yeah, there's not one that's like
Parkour.
yeah. But you know, our hardest trail is probably our spillway trail. It's like 2.5 miles, and there's a couple of switchbacks that are a little rough. But if you're relatively fit and you feel like walking for 5 miles, go for it.
What's a switchback mean?
So when you're going up a mountain or like a big hill, instead of going straight up, you kind of go at an angle and then you turn and go up the angle like this and then turn up and go like an angle like that. That's what switchback means. So it's not going straight up the hill. It's going this way and then this way, kind of zigzagging up it. Make it a lot less steep and a lot easier to climb.
Okay.
Right.
So is there anything else we haven't covered yet that Cowan Lake offers?
Again, most of your outdoor recreation you can probably do here, just about anything. We have an archery range. We have a youth fishing pond, which is fantastic, or one of the few places that has one of those. What is it? Basically dammed off part of the lake. If you're under, I think it's 16, you can fish in there. We use that a lot for events. It's a really cool place.
Is that by the boat ramps?
Yeah, that's by the east side boat ramps.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a couple of paddle launches. We have an ADA paddle launch down there as well. So it's real easy to get out of your kayak there. And again, it's designed for people with accessibility issues, but people like me use it all the time because it's really easy to get in and out of your boat that way.
Yeah,
so it's really cool.
Nice. So to transition into your role as a naturalist?
My role as a naturalist, I wear a lot of different hats and I do a lot of different things, but my primary responsibility is public programming here in this park. So basically we do educational programming. So I've done hikes and canoeing and archery and various assorted educational activities. I run this nature center, which is, again, an educational resource to teach people about the things that are out there in Ohio. So we do a lot of native species, a lot of plants, animals, bugs, fungi. If you can think about it, I'll probably have an answer for something. That's kind of the basics of what I do. That's the most general part. I'm also in charge of a lot of our public relations for the park. So the naturalist should be the public liaison between park staff and the public. So I do a lot of that. I manage your Facebook page. I do a lot of outreach. So somebody calls me and say, hey, you know, we want to have somebody from the DNR come down and talk to us about snakes. All right, I'm here. I also work with a lot of volunteer groups from around the community. So we've had tons of scouts and 4-H groups and just general volunteer groups that want to come and give back to the community. I'm usually the one that they talk to. So I'll organize that event. And we always have things to do here at Cowan that could require a big group of people. Most of the gardens that you see are done by volunteer groups. I just had my raptor house out back behind the nature center painted by a volunteer group. We've had scouts that have done a lot of things. So many different volunteering activities. And I'm usually the one that matches you with that and says, hey, you know, this is what I want done. This is how we're going to do it. What do you need? All that kind of stuff. So I've done that too. Again, with my background as well, I'm a scientist. So if we have anything in the park that's like sciencey stuff, they'll ask me. My whole job is to know the park really well and the resources that we have and come up with general ways to manage those resources. So again, a lot of different hats, do a lot of different things. It's actually really cool. So every day is different.
You were saying that sometimes when you take like walks with people, like
Mhm.
tours and stuff, like point out different things they didn't know, like, oh, this leaf does this.
Yeah,
Or
so
whatever.
a lot of it is what we call natural interpretation. Basically, that means taking the things that are outside and relating them to people and teaching you what is out there in a way that most people will understand. So a lot of science, especially biology, can be relatively complicated, and it's my job to take that natural science and make it digestible for people that aren't scientists, if that makes sense. So like, hey, this is a tulip poplar tree. How do I know it's a tulip poplar? Well, I want to take a look at this leaf here. What does this leaf look like to you? I think it's a cat's head with a mustache. You can see the ears, you can see the mustache. That's how we know what it is. It is a kind of tree that we like to call a magnolia tree. So it's got really pretty flowers that grow really big and yellow and smell really nice. And its parts look like a little swirly. We can get into some advanced botany, but I don't want to do that. So just know that they have really big, pretty yellow flowers, and they're the tallest trees in Ohio. And this is how we can tell.
I took one field botany class in college.
Oh, yeah?
I remember we had to like go to different parks and like collect leaves. And like, I was just fascinated of like, I didn't know that there was so much like science behind all this. I was like, oh, this is a tree. That's a tree. Like, who cares? Like, there's so much like you can know by looking at leaves and stuff, which is cool.
Yeah. And how we classify things is a whole science in of itself. You know, there are people there that spend their entire lives on what group do we put this in. And, you know, you ask a normal biologist, like, why do we classify things the way we do? And most people are like, yeah, it's just conjecture. And we follow some rules, but just because we call it something doesn't mean that's what it is. It's Science 101.
So this nature center is very cool.
Yes.
Can you like talk about the different parts that are here?
Yeah, so we started a new project with the DNR of updating a lot of nature centers. It was originally greenlit in 2019. We started moving some gears in 2020. Obviously, we got behind. In case you didn't notice, there was a couple things that happened in 2020. I don't know if you know that.
Does anything happen in 2020?
No, I'm not 100% sure. I've heard something.
Okay.
In 2020. But anyways, that put us a little bit behind. But luckily, we were the first ones. So this is brand new. Again, it was finished, I think, in fall of 2020. So we had started this project before they shut a lot of them down. So we got to finish it. But there's a lot of cool stuff in here. It is very park specific and based off of things that we like to highlight here in our park.
So this was like a rental place.
Yeah,
right?
so this
and
was
converted it to a nature center.
Yeah, so this was a cabin, and the building across the way was a cabin. So these were cabins 1 and 2, and they converted them into the nature center. But yeah, so a lot of the things here to highlight what we have in the park. So there's a little section here that has fossils. In case you didn't know, Cowan Lake, Caesars Creek, John Bryant, this area of southwestern Ohio was probably the single best Ordovician fossil bed in the entire world. So this was an Ordovician sea roughly 450 million years ago. We were underwater, and you can see it in the rocks. It's really neat. So you pick up any rock around here, and it's just covered in fossils, shells, Bryozoa, brachiopods, other big words of long dead sea creatures. But it's really cool. So we have a section highlighting that. We have a section highlighting some of our pollinators, the plant-animal relationships that are really important and allow those things to reproduce. So a lot of pretty flowers. There's probably a bug or a bird or something like that behind why they look like that. There's a section on the American lotus. It's relatively unique to this park. There's a section on bald eagles because, I mean, come on, who doesn't like bald eagles? And then we have some displays of some of our live animals, some animal ambassadors, which, I mean, come on, going in and looking at cool animals is always cool.
Yeah, can you like talk about what animals you have here that are like live animals?
Okay, yeah, I can do that. So there's several live animals that we have on permanent display here at Cowan. So some of my permanent animals, I have a gray rat snake. I have got 2 box turtles. I've got a spotted salamander, and I have a frog. We also are in charge of 2 birds of prey. They're off site right now because, again, I said we did some renovations to our birdhouse. So we moved them off site because it's really hard to do renovations around said bird. But we do a lot of educational programming with these animals. So they're handled relatively often, some more than others. I don't really handle my amphibians because they don't like that. But the reptiles and the birds are handled all the time. Just showing people what they do, how they do it. This is how they live. This is how they eat. This is what they do. Hey, do you want to touch a snake? And it really helps connect people with those animals. So I understand like, oh, I did not know that this was living in my backyard. I did not know that this was a thing that is here. It's like, yeah, it's really cool. And then they're like, yeah, so I'm going to go look for it. I'm going to go care about it, and I'm going to help, protect it. That's the entire point of what I do, of connecting people with these resources and saying, hey, these are all the cool things you can see. And people are like, wow, those are really cool. And they get an interest in it and they care about it. And that helps us conserve it and keep it around for posterity.
So what changes are you doing to is it the raptor?
We're trying to put up another layer of fencing, so just another grate, get a little bit of space between the birds and the people, so that way calms the birds down a little bit, stresses them out less.
Mm-hmm.
And we're updating some perches, updating some surfaces on some of the perches. We just finished painting, so you can see the birds a little better, and it's honestly doesn't show as much dirt. The birds really like to use the bathroom on the walls, so white paint, white bird poop, stays a little cleaner. And so we're getting a new box for the red-tailed hawk, just several different things to make the birds more comfortable and to increase the guest experience. So I'm looking at both of those. So you can see the birds better. The birds are going to be a lot more comfortable.
Do you have a favorite animal here?
Do I have a favorite animal on display here?
Yeah, animal ambassador.
Animal, ooh, that's tough. So my favorite animal in the entire world is a salamander. So I love all of my animal ambassadors equally, but I like the salamander a little bit.
They can't hear you from here, just so you know.
Well, I know. And I just want to make sure that they all feel special.
Nice.
So, but I like him because he's cool. And he's our official state salamander of Ohio. You knew that Ohio had a state salamander.
No, I didn't.
He's famous.
Yes,
I need to get a signature.
So the lotus thing is pretty cool because we have a really neat lotus section of Cowan Lake, and also there's a festival in August, you said?
Mm-hmm. We do our lotus festival every year, first week in August, which is peak lotus bloom. The lotus are native to North America, basically from like the Caribbean Sea up to like Ontario. But in inland lakes, especially in Ohio, there's like 2 that have lotus, and this is one of them. They grow in some of the coves of Lake Erie, but they're relatively rare, especially in inland lakes. We have them here. They are lotus. I don't know if you've ever seen like East Asian art depicting lotus flowers and those kinds of things and lotus blooms, and people really like them in gardens. Those are the Asian ones. These are the American cousins. A lot of people call them water lilies. They're not lilies.
I was going to ask,
Lotus.
yeah, it's different. Yeah,
They are different. Again, I don't want to get into the advanced botany and classifications, but they're very, very, very different.
So do lilies bloom?
Oh yeah, lilies bloom.
Okay.
Their flowers are different. The internal anatomy of a lily versus a lotus are completely different. So they are classified in completely different, well, not quite phyla, but like about as closely related as a bird is to you. So the lotus are much more closely related to that oak tree out back than they are to lilies. So that's a common misconception people have. And that's part of my job to tell them, no, it's not quite a lily, it's a lotus. We're going to call it a lotus. But they're really cool. They grow these big, huge pads that look like lily pads. But what's really neat about those is that they're completely waterproof. So one of my favorite demonstrations is to take one of these and say, hey, okay, you see these big pads? These leaves are completely waterproof. You splash some water on it and it beads up and runs right off. It's really cool. So we've actually done some research looking at lotus pads to develop technologies for people to improve, water resistance in some of our materials. So it's really neat. It's really cool stuff that nature figured it out way before we could.
Talk about programming then and events.
Mm-hmm. So we run through programming just about every weekend, Thursday through Sunday. We've probably got something going on. I'm showing you my summer schedule. It is posted on our website, on our Facebook page, all that kind of stuff. So we've got stuff constantly going on here at the park. The Nature Center's open 7 days a week, but again, our programming usually runs from Thursday to Sunday. It's relatively patterned. So our Saturdays are going to have, there's a particular pattern to it. Every Saturday at 10 a.m., we meet down by the campground beach and we go paddling. I have a hike that we lead at 1, and that varies on location throughout the park. I like to hit all the trails, so we rotate through that. And at 4, we do archery, and that's every Saturday. And then our Thursday, Friday, and Sunday programs rotate through, and we have different things. Also in the Nature Center, all summer, we're going to be doing themed programming. So there's crafts, there's demonstrations, there's stuff like that. And they rotate through 5 different themes based off of kind of cores of natural sciences, something that scientists study closely. So there's 5 different factors that I've broken down. We have about 3 or 4 programs for each one of those. So stop in the nature center, make yourself a craft, learn a little bit about plants. It's really cool.
It has open hours, so someone could just come and do an activity whenever they want to.
Exactly. So exactly.
Also, there's like set things too that you do every week.
So again, we have nature centers open. We have nature center programs that happen here at the nature center. It's open 7 days a week. Our hours are posted online here at the park on the Facebook, and you can do things and activities in the nature center. The schedule here are things that we're doing outside of the nature center. So some of our more in the park activities, again, hikes, canoeing, tons of stuff going on all the time. We have night hikes. We're going to start doing those just about every Friday. So we're going to listen for owls and look at stars and do a whole bunch of cool stuff like that.
Nice. What are some of the greatest challenges of a state park?
Sometimes we do have some funding issues. There's a lot of things that we would love to do to improve our parks all the time. There's so many things that we could do. We only have so much money to work with. State parks in Ohio are funded through 3 main channels. We have park revenue, so the money we make off of camping, lodges, all that stuff. That's about 1/3 of our funding. Another 1/3 of our funding comes from boating registration. So you have to get a boating license, you have to register your boat, all that stuff, because we are parks and watercraft. That's where the watercraft comes in. We get about 1/3 of our funding from that, and the other 1/3 we pull from the GRF, so from the General Revenue Fund. There's a certain amount of money that we have to spend. We do not ever have any issues with spending it. So many things that we can do, but a lot of our focus is meeting basic operations. Having a park that you can come to that's clean, that's well maintained, grass is mowed, your cabin doesn't have leaks in the roof, your water runs, all that kind of stuff. That's our main priority. And then additional things, adding different things are, I wouldn't say afterthoughts, but something that's down the line after we've hit basic operations. That's also why we have a friends group here at Cowan Lake. So they are an official 501c3 nonprofit. They generate revenue from grants or donations or this or that, and completely, entirely 100% volunteer run. So they're all volunteers. 100% of the donations and grants and all that goes straight back into the park. So they've done so many different things. They've put in our Raptor house here. They're putting in a putt-putt golf here sometime this summer. So once we get it in, they are the ones that put in the disc golf. They do so many different things. And they are basically hosting events and building things and improving park amenities. So they help us fill in those gaps and give us things that we wouldn't have without them. So that's really cool on that aspect.
What's something that you're most proud of so far that you've been able to accomplish?
I've done a lot of things that I'm very proud of here at Cowan Lake. A lot of it is just getting our programming set up and getting people in and trying to involve ourselves with the community. So I've been really, really focused on outreach since I've been here. And I've done tons of outreach for tons of different people. I've established partnerships with the Blanchester Library. I've gone to Laurel Oaks, a couple of clubs here in Wilmington. So like the Wilmington Garden Society, some 4-H clubs, some scout groups, all of those things. Just involving myself more and saying, hey, we're here. This is what we can offer. We can do a whole bunch of cool stuff. I'm also had a project that we're working on of plant reintroduction with a greenhouse and all this other cool stuff that we are still working on it, but it's something that I'm really proud of. It's a cool project that we've worked on here. Just kind of making ourselves more accessible is what I'm really proud of saying, hey, Nature Center attendance has been up from previous records. Programming attendance has been up. Outreach has gone very well, and people seem to be really excited about coming. And how many people have told me that, hey, I've been camping here for 20 years. I've never been to the Nature Center, and they happen to see me. So I think that's really cool.
Something we ask people in general is like any stigmas or misinformation that people have about the organization. When you talk to people, what do you find is like maybe something they just didn't know, or misconceptions that they had about Cowan Lake, I guess?
So again, we are state government. So obviously the state government is the state government, and people will have their own opinions. But at the same time, people love parks. So we are relatively popular in what we do. I will say we get into the whole bureaucratic stuff of being a government agency, but at the same time, I'm here and the rest of the staff here, our main focus is the guest experience on getting you to have a good time at our state parks. Ohio is known for having one of the best state park programs in the entire country. We're top 5, top 10 just about every single year when we're rating state parks. And we're very, very proud of that fact. And we are taking every stride we possibly can to make sure that we are being the best that we can be and trying to make sure that people say, hey, your state parks are here. They're free. Come and visit us and come and enjoy. This year is actually the 75th anniversary of the DNR in Ohio, and we are celebrating in every single way we possibly can just to say, hey, we've been here for 75 years. We've done a lot of things. Come visit us. Come support us. We're here for you. That's the whole point, is that we are providing a public service, and we are proud to be providing a public service, and we're proud to say, hey, we're really good at what we do. I am slightly biased when I say that, but we do a pretty good job. And again, come visit your state parks for free. It's fun. Just come do it, man.
It's probably good for like tourism and like revenue for the state to have good parks, people to come and visit.
Exactly. And again, Ohio with the DNR and the Bureau of Tourism are really hammering our state parks, because you think that stereotypical outside of Ohio people, the idea of what I'm thinking of what other places think of Ohio. And it's just, they actually come and visit and you realize that's not at all what it's like on the ground. Ohio has so many different things to offer, so many places to visit, so many things to do. You just have to know where to look. And between the DNR and the Department of Tourism, we've really been hammering that. So Hocking Hills is rated as one of the single best state parks in the entire country. USA Today rated the Whispering Cave Trail as like the best hiking trail in the country just recently. So it's a gorgeous trail, lots of cool stuff to see. And we're hammering that, especially because we're using that gym to help basically spread it to the rest of the state park system. There are 75 after this weekend, the 76 state parks in Ohio. We're doing a ribbon cutting on a brand new one in Xenia this weekend.
I heard about that, yeah.
Yeah, so Great Council State Park is opening here in Xenia. It's a very unique property. It's so cool. So basically, we've been working on it for years at this point. It's a Native Heritage Museum. Is basically what it is. So there's a little bit of ground space, but this gorgeous 3-story building with tons of interpretive information on the native heritage of Ohio. Why they built it in Xenia, it's on this old site called Old Town. It was an old native village. So a lot of times we're talking about Shawnee and other native heritage. So some of the Hopewells, but mostly first contact native tribes. So again, a lot of Shawnee stuff. We have a man, his name is Caden Sauerbrey. He's the naturalist supervisor working out of Great Council. Excellent resource. He is a Native American interpreter born on a reservation in Oklahoma. Fantastic resource on all things about Ohio history and Native heritage. So it's really, really, really cool. And all these things that we're gearing up for that. So it's going to be a really cool park. I've seen a lot of the mock-ups. I've seen a lot of the drawings. I've seen a lot of the displays that are going on there. And I'll be at the ribbon cutting on the 7th, and I'm really excited about it.
So is it just a nature center there, or is it like trails and like lakes?
There's a small trail. It's not like the typical campground around a lake kind of state park that most people think of, but there is like a trail that goes through this native prairie. There's a lot of interpretive signage, interpretive information about all the plants in this prairie were put there on purpose to tell some kind of story. And a lot of them are plants that were used by the Native Americans living in Ohio for various assorted purposes. Now, I don't know all of them off the top of my head, and I don't want to necessarily be wrong about talking about these kinds of things, but all of them are there for a purpose. All of them have some sort of use and some sort of significance to the Native people living in Ohio. So there's some prairies, there's some trails, there's, I think the trail's about 3/4 of a mile. It's a relatively small property. And again, we're talking much more than a nature center here. It's a straight up Native History Museum. And from what Talon was telling me, his ultimate goal is to say, if you need anything at all about Native history in Ohio, Native heritage in Ohio, anything you want to know about the tribes that used to live here, how they lived, what they did, anything about their culture or heritage or stuff, call Great Council and they'll answer your questions. So that's kind of our goal, is basically to have the source on Native heritage in Ohio out of this park in Xenia. It's so cool. And I highly recommend following them on Facebook or giving them a visit this summer. It's going to be awesome. They're doing tours just about every weekend, guided tours almost every day. to talk you through some of the things. There's also a living stream exhibit that's going to be really cool. So it's not entirely native heritage, but everything will link back to that, everything that they do. So it's really, really cool.
Nice.
Very excited about it.
What keeps you passionate about your job?
What keeps me passionate about my job is that my job is my hobby. So everything that I say that I would do in my spare time, I get paid to do. So that's awesome. I like to kayak. I love to look for salamanders and plants and flowers and trees and explore and learn about all the things that are out there. Being a wildlife biologist, it's what I care about. So all the things that I'm passionate about are also my job. So, you can't have it more made than I do, where the things that you want to do every single day and you would do on your own spare time for free as your job, it doesn't get any better than that. So
Don't tell your boss that.
They'll find out eventually. They pretty much already know that. But when you do the things that you care about every single day, it makes you want to come to work, especially when you get to teach people about the things that you care about and hopefully impart some of that passion, some of that excitement, some of that what you care about onto other people. That is basically the reason I come into work every single day, is if I can get one person to think something's cool that I think's cool, I consider it a pretty good day. And I've had a lot of success with that, of teaching people, getting people involved and teaching people new things and getting them to want to be outside and want to explore and want to care about what's out here. I saw a quote one time, and I might misquote it slightly, but basically it's, we conserve what we care about what we know, and we know what we're taught. Talking about conservation.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember who said that. It was some author. And my job is to, teach people things so they care about it and they conserve it. So we have it for a while. If you know anything about the history of Ohio and its natural resources, they've been well used. Very much timber, coal. Basically, the entire second industrial revolution was fueled by resources from Ohio, which is really cool that we have that much of an impact on not only our local history, but national history and even world history. But at the same time, that has really impacted what is honestly a gorgeous state with a bunch of really cool stuff and highly varied habitats and so many different things living here, that we really, really, really have to focus on preserving what we already have and making sure that that continues for a long time. It's really cool.
So our podcast is called Real Change. You just talked a lot about conservation, but one question I like to ask at the very end is, what does real change look like to you?
Change from my perspective is a little different than cultural. I'm more talking about environmental and caring about our planet and looking more towards sustainability and staying conscious of the things around you. So I want change to be in coexistence with the natural environment. So we can live here, but we're not taking advantage of the things that we're given. Again, our natural resources are gorgeous. There's so many things out there that can help us, so we need to help them. And that is kind of the change that I'm looking to do, of more of an understanding of how important our planet is and how important our environment is, and being able to just connect that. I'm not saying to, completely ignore things or basically live in a tent in the woods, but somewhere in between, of sustainably managing the things that we have so that way they last us for however long we're here. And being able to use these things for recreation and for medicine and for just being outside and being able to connect with those things is really the important change that I'm looking for. And if you notice, that's a huge trend nationwide, worldwide at this point in time. And I can help that just here with my local community. And that's really cool. If somebody's shouting from California about something that doesn't really matter to you, I can connect that personally with what we have here. So it's a lot cooler to see the things that you can find in your backyard as opposed to talking about something that has 1,000 things and they live in Asia. Tigers are cool, but you don't see them in the wild around here.
It desensitizes you.
Yeah, it desensitizes you a little bit. Whereas we were talking about a Massasauga rattlesnake, they used to be everywhere, and now they're not. So you talk about those, that could potentially be in your backyard.
And some people like that. They're not in the backyard anymore.
Some people are. I'm not one of those. Again, they have their space. I have mine.
Yeah.
That's the understanding that we need to have. So,
for sure.
and that's kind of another part of the change that I'm trying to instill and push for and try to help in every way that I can. Of they have their space, we have ours. Respect that. Just a little bit of respect for the things around you. We can use it for recreation. That's the best way to help conserve things, is by having fun with it, of having spaces like this that you can go out and have fun and fish and hike and do all the things that are really enjoyable. And that's why people like parks, is that they can have fun with them and they can use them for things like that.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I'd maybe like be a little bit less consumeristic and more like coexist and like you said, respect for the surroundings. I love that. Cool. So if people want to get in touch with you, how would they best do that?
So I have both a phone number and an email, or you can just stop into the park. So my email is my first name and my last name at dnr.ohio.gov. My first name and last name are both very hard to spell. But you can find them on our website really easily. Just Google Cowan Lake State Park and go to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources website. My information will be basically posted in that schedule of events. My information is also available on our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/Cowan Lake State Park. Super simple, really easy to get to. My information's in there as well on all my programming schedules. And again, you can always just drive over and see me. I'm here usually Wednesday through Sunday, 10 to 6. My information's not that hard to find. If you really want to get in contact with me, my number is 740-816-4405. It's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. My email is caden.sauerbrey@dnr.ohio.gov. So again, probably send me an email, but if you really want to call me, you can. If you got literally none of that, visit our website, get on our Facebook. You send a DM on our Facebook page, I'll probably be the one to answer you. My program schedule's in the park, on Facebook, everywhere else. Look and you shall receive.
And if you want to take a visit, it's South 68 and then turn right onto Dalton
Road, yeah.
Take that back behind the giant Frankenstein.
Past the Haunted Hollow.
Yeah.
Highly recommend visiting that in the fall.
Yep. And then your office is right back there. So
office is just off Ogden. There's a huge sign that says, "Welcome to Cowan Lake State Park." They're going to stop you at the check-in. You say, "Hey, I'm going to the nature center." And they're like, "Yep, go ahead and go back."
Nice. Well, thank you for being on our podcast. I appreciate it.
I had a lot of fun, and I'm very excited. This is my first podcast, so I'm very excited.
We had a good time the last time we visited. You just like giving us a tour, so hopefully people do take advantage of coming here because it is a lot of fun. So, yeah.
And again, I'm around, so if you have ever any questions about literally anything, I'll probably have an answer.
Better than Google.
Better than Google. I tend to be a little bit more eloquent than Google.
All right. See you, Katie.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Well, that's it for our podcast today, folks. I hope you enjoyed our interview with Caden Sauerbrey at Cowan Lake State Park. If you have more questions for him, feel free to reach out directly. If he will talk to us two dorks, he will certainly be glad to talk with you as well. After all, we are a community of empowered individuals. Tiara, if people want to get in touch with Real Change Wilmington, how would they do that?
You can contact us on our website at realchangewilmington.com, visit our Facebook and Instagram pages, or grab a free copy of our local newspaper at Kroger, Sam's Meat, and Fiesta Veracruz. We also currently send our newspaper direct mail to over 2,500 Wilmington residents. So if you want to help us cover our printing costs and advertise your local business, event, or job posting, please email us at advertise@realchangewilmington.com.
Very cool. With that, I'm your host, Dustin Pierce.
And I'm your co-host, Tiara Harris.
Keep it real, Wilmington.